हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू ज्ञान गंगा क्लासेस। और आज हम लेकर के आए हैं क्लास 7 सोशल साइंस में हिस्ट्री, चैप्टर नंबर 2 किंग, न्यू किंग्स एंड किंगडम्स। तो इसको हम आज सीखेंगे, इसकी ऑर्डर्स जानेंगे, इसमें क्या क्या चीज़ें हैं और करेंगे इस हिस्ट्री को कन्फर्मली इजी वे में याद। तो इसके लिए हमारी इस वीडियो को पूरा देखिएगा फ्रॉम द स्टार्ट टू फिनिश। एंड ऑल्सो मेक श्योर कि आप हमारे चैनल से जुड़े रहने के लिए प्लीज़ टू सब्सक्राइब, बिकॉज हम ऐसे वीडियोस रोज़ कुछ ना कुछ लेकर के आते रहते हैं। आई होप इट विल हेल्प यू। एंड वीडियो पसंद आए तो वीडियो को लाइक और शेयर इट विद योर फ्रेंड्स। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं कि हम यहाँ क्या कवर करेंगे। सबसे पहली बात है 7th to 12th सेंचुरी की। हम आज इस चैप्टर में 7th to 12th सेंचुरी के बारे में ही पढ़ेंगे। It was the century, it was the time period when new rulers that were the previously the landlords or the warriors working under the king started as the Samanta, started as emerging as the new rulers. Okay, these were the new rulers. और ऐसा इमर्जेंस ऑफ न्यू रूलर्स हमने देखा 7th to 12th सेंचुरी के बीच। They gained power, wealth, and thereafter declared themselves as Mahasamant or Mahamandaleshwar, like a authority thing. Now there is a case study of Rashtrakoot. The Danti Durga, a Rashtrakoot chief, overthrew his Chalukya overlord and performed a ritual known as Hiranyagarbha. That is basically done to make one's identity as Kshatriya if it is not from the birth. So, ये केस स्टडी एक दंती दुर्गा नाम के राष्ट्रकूट चीफ की है, जिसने चालुक्य, उस समय चालुक्य राज था, तो चालुक्य राज को पीछे छोड़कर उनको ओवरटेक किया एंड ही जस्ट डू अ हिरण्यगर्भक रिचुअल, जिसके थ्रू वो क्षत्रिय बन सके। क्षत्रिय बन के क्या करता, ताकि वो अथॉरिटी में आ सके। अदर लॉर्ड्स लाइक कदम्ब, मयूरश्रम एंड गुजर पर्थिरा हरिचंद्र, Brahmanas by birth, used their military skills to establish their kingdoms in Karnataka and Rajasthan. इसने तो ये रिचुअल लिया हिरण्यगर्भक to become a king, and these other, the Kadam, Mayurshravan and the Gurjara Prathira, they all were the Brahmins. So they took the military skills to establish their kingdom. Adopted high-sounding titles like Maharaja Dhiraj, the great king, overlord of the kings, Tribhuvan Chandra Chakravarti, like the lord of 3 worlds. So they used to add these titles to themselves to be a king. And in these kings and kingdoms, the producers, who are the producers? The peasants, cattle keepers, the artisans were the main feeders to the state. They used to produce things that make a state run. The land was owned by the lords, and so the producers were compelled to pay rent to the owners, whereas the traders were to pay revenue to the lords. लैंड किसका था? लैंड किंगडम का, लैंड किंग का. सो दे वर द प्रोड्यूसर्स एंड द ट्रेडर्स वर हैव टू बी पे द रेंट टू द लॉर्ड, एंड देन द ट्रेडर्स हैव टू पे द रेवेन्यू ऑफ देयर ट्रेड टू द लॉर्ड्स. These resources were used to finance the establishment of kingdom, construction of temples, forts, and also fighting wars and maintaining the soldiers, the army, which were done to expand the resources through plundering, acquiring, and finding trade routes. So, कहाँ से main finance resource है? From the rent and the taxes. It helped the kingdom to establish itself, construction of temples, forts, or फाइटिंग द वॉर्स, मेंटेनिंग द आर्मी, ये सब उस रिसोर्स से, उस फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्स से होता था. द रेवेन्यूज फंक्शनरीज वर रिक्रूटेड from influential families and positions were often hereditary. The prashastis were composed by learned Brahmins in praise of rulers. It used to depict the rulers as valiant, victorious warriors. प्रशस्तिज किसने कौन कंपोज करते थे? प्रशस्तिज क्या है? प्रशस्तिज अगर आपने लास्ट क्लास में याद आ रहा होगा, हमने पढ़ा था प्रशस्तिज वर द बिग संस्कृत पोएम्स written mostly in the Sanskrit. So these were written mostly by Brahmins in the praise of the kings, the kingdom, the rulers. Brahmanas were rewarded by the grant of land. और इसी प्रशस्तिज लिखने के ऊपर अच्छी प्रशस्ति लिखी, किंग खुश हुए, so they reward the lands to the Brahman. अब उसी में से एक known prashasti is the Kalhana poem. The Kalhana's long poem in Sanskrit. Kalhana, the Brahman who wrote the poem in the Sanskrit and recorded the history of the kings who ruled over Kashmir. और अपनी उस long Sanskrit poem में उन्होंने किसके बारे में लिखा है? The ruler of Kashmir के बारे में, the kings of Kashmir. He usually used a variety of sources including inscription, documents, eyewitness accounts, and earlier histories in order to present his accounts. Then the Kannauj. Kannauj was prized area in the Ganga Valley. There was a tripartite struggle among the Gurjara Prithira, Rashtrakoot and Pala dynasties over the Kannauj. ये एक एरिया थी गंगा वैली में जिसके ऊपर there was a three-party dispute, the struggle. They all were struggling over Kannauj. Rulers used to build the large temples in order to demonstrate their power and resource. So temples were the first target of when one ruler attacked the other. Now, there's the case study of Sultan Mahmud Ghazni. Sultan Mahmud Ghazni of Afghanistan in the time period 1997 to 1030 extended his control over the parts of Central Asia, Iran and other northwestern part of the subcontinent. During his attack, he targeted wealthy temples, of which the temple of Somnath in Gujarat was more important. इसने भी जब यहाँ से अपने कंट्रोल्स को सेंट्रल एशिया से अदर पार्ट्स, अफ़गानिस्तान से सेंट्रल एशिया के अदर पार्ट्स पे, नॉर्थ वेस्टर्न पार्ट पे जब अपने कंट्रोल को एक्सपेंड किया तो ही स्टार्टेड अटैकिंग देयर एंड ही स्टार्टेड अटैकिंग वेयर द wealthy temples. And in that, one of the important temple was temple of Somnath in Gujarat. Now, Kitab al-Hind. Al-Baruni's Kitab al-Hind, an Arabic work written on the request of Sultan, is an important source for historians. This is a kitab, okay, means a resource, a written resource. It is in Arabic. On the request of Sultan, Al-Barunis wrote the Kitab al-Hind. Al-Baruni also consulted the Sanskrit scholars while preparing this book. And some notable kings of that time who were engaged in war were Chahmanas or Chauhans, who ruled over the region around Delhi and Ajmer and made efforts to expand their control to the west and east. They were opposed by Chalukyas of Gujarat and Gadalwas of Uttar Pradesh. So there were Chauhans in the Ajmer, Delhi and Ajmer, and then there were Chalukyas of Gujarat, there were Gadalwas of Uttar Pradesh. So in the Chauhans, Prithviraj III, who defeated the Afghan ruler Sultan Muhammad Ghori in 1191 but lost to him in the very next year, the most popular of the Chauhans. Prithviraj III was the one who defeated in 1191. He defeated Sultan Mahmud Ghori, but he lost to him in 1192. Okay, and in the Pallavas, the Muttariyar, the subordinate to the Pallava king of Kanchipuram, held the power in Kaveri Delta. So these were some important things according to the historians in the fact of this century to these kingdoms. Now there was Vijayalaya. Vijayalaya is the member of an ancient chiefly family of the Cholas from Urayur. उरैर जगह के चोला डायनेस्टी की फैमिली से बिलोंग करते थे विजयल्या. Captured the delta from the Muttariyar in the middle of the 9th century. The town of Thanjavur and the temple for goddess Nishumbhasudini, there were some of his major creations. Also, his successors expanded their kingdom in size and power, adding the Pandyan and Pallava territories to the south and north of their kingdom. Now the Cholas, the Raj Raja, if one, was the most famous and powerful Chola ruler who became king in 985 and thereafter expanded control over most of these areas. He was known also for his reorganization of the administration of his empire. His son Rajendra I also added to the glory of his father. The big temple of Thanjavur and Gangaikonda, the Cholapuram, built by Rajaraja and Rajendra, are the architectural marvels. So in the Cholas also you learned about the Rajaraja and Rajendra, who were the powerful ruler. The temple of Cholas were the nuclei of settlement that grew around them. They were also centers of craft production and were endowed with land by rulers as well as others. Now, some of the characteristics of these kingdoms. The producers of the land were spared to maintain the specialists working at the temple and usually lived near it. They were the priests, garland makers, cooks, sweepers, musicians, dancers, and so much more. Temples were not only the place of worship, but they were a hub of economic, social, and cultural life as well. The making of bronze image of the deities was the most distinctive of the crafts associated with the temples. Chola bronze images are still considered the best in the world. तो चोला का क्या एक हाईलाइट हमको मिला उनकी ब्रॉन्ज से बनी हुई images of the deities. They are still one of the best crafts in the world. The development of architecture contributed to much of the achievements of the Cholas. Although agriculture has developed earlier in the parts of Tamil Nadu, it was only from the 5th to 6th century that this area was opened up for the large-scale cultivation. 5th-6th century से क्या होने लगा था? Large scale cultivation. The forest had to be cleared in some areas while land had to be leveled in some other regions. The embankments were built to prevent flood and canals were constructed to carry the water to the fields. In many areas 2 crops were grown in a year. So हमें यहाँ पे इनके agriculture का भी समझ में आता है. Now administration कैसे चलते थे? और क्या होता था उस टाइम पे? The settlement of peasants grew prosperous with the spread of irrigation culture. So the group of such village formed the larger units called Nadu, performed several administrative functions including dispensing justice, collecting taxes. Then the rich peasants of the villa caste controlled the affairs of the Nadu under the supervision of the central government of Chola. समझ आया? Also, there were some rich landowners who honored with a title like Vendelavan or Velan, Arayar, the chief, and there were also entrusted with the important offices of the state at the center. As Brahmanas often received land grants from Brahmadev, a large number of Brahmana settlements emerged in Kaveri Valley, as in other parts of South India. Each Brahmana who looked after by an assembly or sabha of prominent Brahmana landholders which worked efficiently. Their decisions were recorded in detail in inscriptions on the stone of the wall of the temples. Associations of the traders, known as nagarams, also occasionally performed the administrative function in the town. The teaching of the Holy Quran. So, इस तरीके से हमने समझा इस पूरे चैप्टर को कि how the new kingdoms emerged, how the new king started, and what was the administration, what was the process of ruling that kingdoms, what were the characteristics. So I hope आपको अच्छा लगा होगा, समझ आया होगा, कुछ नया सीखने को मिला होगा. और अगर कुछ पसंद आया, वीडियो अच्छी लगी तो प्लीज़ लाइक दिस वीडियो एंड शेयर इट विद योर फ्रेंड्स, ताकि उन्हें भी कुछ नया सीखने को मिले, उन्हें भी पॉइंट्स क्लियर हो. और अगर अभी तक आप हमारे चैनल से नहीं जुड़े देन प्लीज़ डू सब्सक्राइब एंड हिट द बेल आइकन टू नेवर मिस एनी वीडियो अपडेट.